Welcome to our show, Tough Talks Unlimited, co-hosted by Derek Bowles and myself, Michael Garth. In this show, we're going to hear from world-class leaders and innovators, people who are willing to have positive conversations and share their insights on tough talks to get you through tough times. Let's get started.
Man, I'm just excited again, more than anything, to first and foremost to honor Coach Garland and us having this show together, Tough Talk Unlimited. We have an extremely important guest on the show today, and I'm super excited to connect with him. Dedrick Taylor, just give you a little bit of history. Me and Dedrick connected when he was an assistant at Portland State University. That's what pops into my mind. And now he is really leading a program that has had a number of successes that has taken place over the last couple of seasons. And we're going to jump into that eventually. But first and foremost, man, how are you doing? How are you feeling?
Things are good. I can't complain, man. I appreciate the opportunity to share this platform with you guys. And I'm excited to have some conversation that leads to a level of productivity. But I'm doing really, really well. I can't complain. We just started summer school and back on the floor with our guys and trying to do it all over again.
Yeah. Well, and based on the success that you've already had, I don't see that being a problem. I think you're gonna do it again. I'm one of those guys, man. I'm really I just think there's so many gifts that you bring to the table, and when we connected back in the day, that's been a while ago. But you had those gifts then. So I'm just excited that we get a chance to connect.
I definitely appreciate it.
So I want to, obviously I want to ask just to start our conversation off, because one of the things that we do is we talk about stuff that's happening real time, happening especially in the game of basketball right now. And there's this thing that's unfolding that people haven't really been talking about with the NIL and what's that's doing from a recruiting perspective, how it's impacting high school players, how it's impacting people transfer. I mean, all the stuff that's going on with that. And I really want you to, just start the conversation off right off the top, right? Like, what are your thoughts, man? Give us some insight.
Yeah, my thoughts are all over the place, quite frankly, because in this business, you're driven by the success of the kids, and the student athletes. I shouldn't call them kids because they're young adults and they're decision makers in a lot of ways and a lot of capacities. But in one vein, if you will, I'm super excited for them to get the opportunity that the NIL affords them. To be able to make some decisions, from some financial decisions that have a chance to impact their future,
right?
In the now, not in the long run, but in the now. I think it has an opportunity to make things better. I do have some issues with the way that things have unfolded and the way things are going down at this present time. And I'll give you an example. Like I heard a guy speak, or we were having a conversation, and I stole it from him some time ago, probably about 4 or 5 months ago. And he says, NIL stands for now it's legal. And so I have an issue with that faction of what's going on and what's unfolding before our eyes. But for the greater good of our game, I think it is definitely necessary. I would love to see some guide rails around it, because I think young student athletes are getting themselves maybe in too deep and not aware of some of the issues that go on to this. In their mind, they think, hey, I can get $200,000 from this school. Well, it's not really $200,000. You have your agent fee that's up to 20%.
Right.
Then you have taxes and all of those things that go into this. And I'm not sure that kids or I shouldn't say kids. I'm not sure that student athletes are being educated and allowed to make an educated decision based on the current facts. And so, as you can see, I have a lot of thoughts.
In
regards to the NIL, and I can speak to it because it's happening right now, as you know, but it also happened to our program. For instance, our leading scorer, who transferred from Cal State Fullerton, and now he's at the University of Alabama.
Mm.
And his decision had nothing to do with basketball.
Wow.
Nothing. It
Wow.
was strictly NIL. How much money can I get and when can I get it? You
Mm.
know, and you know, there were a couple of schools, high-level schools, that would call and say, well, what about basketball and this and that and the other? And I would say, hey, listen, no disrespect intended, but if you want to talk basketball, this is probably not the kid you want to talk to, because if you start talking about basketball and you start talking about basketball primarily, he will tune you out.
Mm.
And your chances of working with him are probably, you know, slim to none. If you start talking about the NIL first and you spend a majority of your time talking about that, and then you slide in some basketball stuff, probably got a good chance of working with him. So,
Interesting.
like I said, it has a lot of different faces, and it elicits a lot of different emotions
Sure.
from me, as you can tell.
Sure. Sure. Wow. Wow. So, you know, obviously, you know, what you're talking about, especially if you had one of your top guys leave and go to a different program really because of the NIL, like my question to you, and this is more of a recruiting question, how is that impacting the players that you're able to get to come play for you? And how is that impacting the high school players as well?
You know, and it's two different questions I think you asked, because
Yeah.
dealing with high school players is completely different than maybe the transfer market, where the
Mhm.
NIL is really, really prevalent.
Gotcha.
And for us, we don't have those kinds of conversations. And I don't mean it like we don't, because of our lack of resources, we don't just come to the table and say, hey, we can offer you X amount of dollars.
Sure.
We're still driven by the opportunity to win. We're
Yeah.
still driven by developing. We're not driven by the NLI and then these things. We're actually the
Mhm.
reverse. We're driven by the opportunity to win. We're driven by the opportunity to be successful and develop and learn and grow and all of those things and do it all over again. So yes, the NLI does have a place for us, but it's minuscule. It's
Gotcha.
very, very, very small. Um, Particularly talking to transfers, because the conversations, you can just tell right off the bat, those guys that are driven by the NIL, we can't accommodate them. And so
Gotcha.
it doesn't mean that we don't like them. It doesn't mean that we don't want them. It doesn't mean that we can't provide them with the opportunity. But I think the opportunity in its totality, the way that they look at it, it's driven by the NIL. And so instead of, you know, wasting their time and wasting our time, if they start talking about the NIL, we tell them right up front, hey, this is what we can do. If it's cool, let's have this conversation continue. But if it's not, no harm, no foul. It is what it is. High school students, a little bit of that conversation is still being had. But they, at least for us and our types of high school players, they're not at that level just yet.
Gotcha.
And again, if they are, we can only tell them what we can do. And in a lot of ways, you're able to tell right off the bat they're listening, and you can continue to have the conversation, or their interest lies other places. And
Sure.
I just I just think there's a level of honesty that needs to be had in the first couple of conversations, so that you know what you're operating with, and it's not any cloak and dagger. You know, I'm,
Sure.
I'm not the brightest star in the sky. We know that. I don't like to play mental gymnastics,
Right. Right.
particularly when it comes to people. I want to communicate and I want to get right to it, and let's get to work.
Sure. Man. Man.
Well, well, Dedrick, you know, I love your comment of, that you stole from the guy during the
Sure.
conference, and now it's legal,
Yeah.
and it's interesting. And I've always said this. I was in Division I basketball, of course, for the last 23 years at Michigan State, and then another three at uh, three at Cleveland State, and then one at SMU as associate head coach there.
Sure.
But I've always said, Dedrick, I've always said this: level up the playing field. And a lot of the guys that have blue blood programs, you'll see a big change in that recruiting. And already you see, Lexington, Kentucky is not such a sexy place anymore.
Yeah.
Because everybody else, i.e. like Alabama, they've got money too.
No doubt.
And you know what they're going to do? They're going to come up with more money than those folks in Lexington, Kentucky.
No doubt.
Because they're already used to doing it because it's the Southeast Conference.
Sure.
Sure. Again, Lawrence, Kansas. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been there, but
I have.
It ain't the sexiest place in the nation.
Not even close.
Not even
the
greatest place to play. It's a great place to play in terms of environment and game environment, but the facility itself, it's a joke.
Yeah. So
the NLI, in my estimation, and I kind of saw this coming, it's actually probably going to help people like yourself.
It does.
Because that's why Florida Atlantic was able to make it to the Final Four, final game. You look at Kansas State and Jerome Tang, and he brought in all those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And now a program that, has basically been undercover for probably a decade.
Sure.
They come up on the rise like overnight
mm-hmm.
because of the money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you had not only Florida Atlantic, I can't recall right now, but we also had some other quote unquote mid-level teams that almost made it in to the Final Four.
Yeah.
And you said something very interesting. You said that you told some schools that called in that if you want to talk basketball to this kid, I don't know. I don't know if he's the guy you want to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what that does? How do you win with that guy at the highest level? How do you win with that guy?
Yeah.
When his desires are in front of his actual goal to be a pro or a very good basketball player. How do you can't win with that guy?
Man,
because the money wins. You see, the money wins, and you ain't winning. You're not winning big with that guy just because you're paying him. It doesn't work that way, and that gives you a chance to pick up guys who are maybe considered, and I use this term, I use this term in a good way. I'm going to put it that way, put it where the ghosts can get it. Where you have that kid, he's not quite a 5-star. He's a 3.5, low 4-star, but he going to give you everything he wants. And he knows the importance of playing well and winning so that he can bypass the 5-star guy.
Right.
And he'll do it. Because that's why right now we're seeing it take place even in the pros, where you got Miami with 11 of their 13 players on the roster were undrafted. See, the superstar, I'm here and showing up, that trend, that's starting to end, man. And that's why I tell D this. I'm praying and hoping that Miami wins it. I'm praying and hoping. And I think you understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I'd just like to hear, if you could expound even more on what you were saying before, and what is your opinions about the overall effect of the NLI?
Yeah, I think the overall effect, I think it sends the wrong message with the way that it has been presented. And I'm not saying there's a right or wrong or perfect way. I'm just saying with the way that it has unfolded with no holes, no bar, no hole, just
Yeah.
do whatever.
Right.
I have an issue with that because I feel like it further damages our youth.
Yes.
It gives them an analogy that you don't have to necessarily work, or you can put in so much work and then let the rest kind of do what it does.
Right.
To me, it sends the wrong image or the wrong message in a lot of ways. You know, I was talking to an agent probably 2 weeks ago, and I was sharing with him about the situation in terms of, what's going on in the greater landscape of college basketball in terms of the money that's involved and the access to the money that these young student athletes have now. And his point was, or he said, man, like all money ain't good money.
Right.
No.
Right.
No.
And that's something that you and I have heard our parents say.
Right.
Mhm.
Nowadays, I don't know that kids understand. If you say that to them, I don't know that they understand what that truly means.
Right.
And so, you take that analogy and you move one step further and you start talking about the Heat and what they've done. I think maybe last year I heard, maybe 2 years ago, I saw on Twitter where I think there's 60 NBA picks.
Right.
And I think 58 of the 60, this was 2 years ago, I think 58 of the
I
60
know where you're
all
going.
came from winning programs.
Right. Right.
You see?
Right. Oh, yeah.
And so you look at Miami Heat, and I would venture if you say 11 of 13 are undrafted,
Right.
they all probably come from the same make and mold
No question.
of winning.
Right.
And
No question.
grinding and working and those things.
Right.
And so again, you ask a question in terms of what drives me. I am only familiar with the work.
Right.
I'm not even familiar with what you get after you work.
Right.
I'm only familiar with the work.
Gotcha.
And I heard Mike Tomlin say this, that I think he said that he's allergic to what's the way that he said he's allergic to like he doesn't want to be around anybody that wants to take a day off or anybody that he's allergic to that. Like when people start talking about it, he just goes the other way. And because he only knows to put on his hard helmet, bring his lunch pail, and let's get to work.
Let's go to work.
Right.
Let's go to work.
And that's something that that's near and dear to my heart. It's something that I always perpetuate. It's something that that is important to me. And I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination am I saying that it's the only way that works. I'm not saying that.
Right.
I'm saying that it's the only way that Dedrick Taylor knows how to operate.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
It's the only thing that it's what I subscribe to. It's not necessarily what everybody else subscribes to. So, I'm not knocking anybody hustles. I just know how to hustle a certain way, and I go about that business the same way almost daily.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this.
And my professional life, like even with my kids, I don't care and get into like they both play soccer. I don't get into all the ins and outs. Well, I only played so and so, or I only got that. My whole thing is, hey man, go get tired. Go work so hard that after the game, you just I got to carry you to the car.
Right.
And there's just so much more to that as they grow older. They're only 12 and they're only 10.
Right.
But there's so much more to like you hear it, you see it, you guys you hear all the noise and what this coach did and what that. Who cares? In life, people are going to do to you way wrong.
Exactly.
And how you respond to that is going to impact your level of success the way that I believe.
Well, Dedrick Taylor, you can be very humble in your position as to whether it's right or wrong. I can tell you from 23 years of coaching at arguably one of the top 5 programs in the nation, year in and year out,
easy,
that you're right. And you know what? What we've done has proven that.
Sure.
So when other people come with the attempt to fake that out, at some point it gets caught up and it's only it only serves those who are looking for an easy way. There's no easy way.
No doubt.
But here's my fear. And I told you about what I think is a little positive about the NLI. My biggest fear is when you start talking about our kids. I'm going to take it a step further. I'm fearful what it's going to do to the African American kid, because we're going to be the ones that are going to be most affected.
Right.
And when I say this, what I mean is this. So now we're giving these kids money, and there is no discussion anymore about education.
Right.
Who's keeping up with who's graduating who anymore? That's out the window. You don't even hear the NCAA. Nobody, universities, nobody talks about educating kids anymore.
Right.
And you know this for a fact. There are, I think there's 3,000 something guys that play Division I. Am I right or wrong? I can't remember the statistics.
Yeah, you're ballpark. You're in the ballpark.
Okay. So we've got 1,000 of them that may have an opportunity to get on the draft board, but I doubt that. So then let's cut that down to 500 of them are really highly considered. And then let's cut that down to 100 that are right there. They're right there. But every year there's only 60 spots.
Right.
There's only 60 spots, Dedrick. But what people don't realize in that, if you look at the draft over the years, Dedrick, at least 10, 15 of those spots go to kids from out of the country.
Oh, yeah.
So those spots, now we're talking about 55. No, we're talking about 45 spots. And here's the next step that I see happening is that these kids, a lot of them are jumping to the league early. Now they're even jumping out of high school early. They're uneducated. And now they're going to be out of, no way will they be prepared for the work world. None. And I'm talking about our kids. So our skin color presents a problem for us right away.
Right.
Now you don't have any education. You don't know how to go about getting a job. You really don't even know how to work a job. And now you can't play basketball. So you know what's going to happen? 10 years from now, it'll take about 10 years. We're going to see all the stories on 60 Minutes about the guys living under viaducts and living on the street.
Right.
They took advantage of me. And you know what? I was young and I thought that $200,000 was going to last me the rest of my life. But here I am. I can't read. I can't write. I can't do anything.
Right.
And then you know what they're going to do, Dedrick? Unfortunately for you, they're going to blame the coaches.
No doubt.
Not their parents.
No
not
doubt.
the people that are whispering in their ear.
Right.
No doubt.
They're going to blame the coaches.
Yep.
That's what's going to happen.
Yep. And I think there's a certain faction of people that already do what you just talked about in terms of blaming the coaches or blaming somebody else when the problem and the issue is them.
Exactly.
You know, one of the things that I showed our team last year, I saw it on Twitter or Instagram or something. It was this bear in the woods. The bear was just going crazy and stuff, but someone had posted a mirror on a pole. And so the bear would go crazy, blah, 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 and then it would look up and realize or look at itself, and then it would go crazy again.
Right.
Okay.
And then it would come back and look at itself and go crazy again. And the moral of the story was, regardless of what happens outside of where you are, who you are, eventually it's going to come back to you and what you have done.
Absolutely.
Right.
The sooner you understand that, probably the better your chances. The later you understand that, the more you're going to blame other people. And my point is just in reference to what you were talking about in terms of accepting and assuming the responsibility for your own future.
Right.
And what that looks like. And yes, I'm scared of what's going to happen or what will be the impact or the fallout, if you will, of the NIL, the way that it's been presented in 5 or 10 years.
Absolutely.
I'm even fearful of, as we come out of COVID, you understand, like we went through COVID and there was all kind of racial injustice and all of this stuff. And again, I'm speaking about the people that look like us three on the screen.
No question.
Mm-hmm.
During COVID, I think there was something like 8. Let's just talk about the NBA, but you can reference any walk of life with this. But since we're sports and we're talking about the NBA, but there was an influx of head coaches that were African American that were hired during COVID,
right?
Because racial strife was at an all-time high. So the NBA's response to that, other professional walks of life, their response to that was, hey, let's promote these Black people. Let's get these people off the butt and give them a chance. And now what we're starting to see is the fallout from that. They're firing these Black people. I mean, a perfect example outside the NBA is, I believe her name is Jamel Hill.
Yeah, Jamel. Yeah, she's from here in Lansing.
Journalist. And this is not, again, it's not public, like not a lot of people pay attention to it, but they just canceled her show. And my point is like, you start looking around and you start seeing where Jamel Hill used to be.
Exactly.
Well, they didn't cancel that time slot. They just canceled that show, and they're going to put somebody else in the time slot. Who do you think they're going to look like?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know who they're going to look like, but I know who they're not going to look like.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? And so, like, in a reference to what you're saying, again, it's us. We have to be responsible for our lot in life. We need to assume the responsibility of taking care of us and showing us and teaching us how to do for us.
Well,
and again, and I don't mean to pat myself on the back or nothing like that, but you just talked about the graduation rate and the GSR is what it's called. Since we've been here going on 11 years, we've been here 10. Our graduation rate is 96%.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
Congratulations.
And it's not by accident. It's not by
exactly.
It's because I'm responsible. When your parents bring you here to summer school, or they bring you, I'm responsible.
That's right.
I want to make sure that you get your son back a little better, a little more mature, a little more aware, a little more efficient in decision making, whether it's basketball and ball screen reads, whether it's bank account over here, whether it's Disney over, it doesn't matter. I just want them to be a little more efficient so that when they go and they sit down for dinner with their parents after being in our program 2 or 3 or 4 years, they've graduated, their parents say, whoa, we did a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what drives me, and going back to the Michigan State. I mean, this happened, I think, Coach Bowles, when you and I met, this was so long ago. But Michigan State, again, you talk about toughness. As soon as you say Michigan State, I think about toughness, and I think about Coach Izzo and just his level of toughness. And people are looking for an easier route, right? And so I think Coach Izzo was talking about rebounding, and he put his basketball team in football half shell, helmets, shoulder pads, and he threw the ball on the glass and made them go get it. They hit each other, but it was tough. It was hard nosed. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? So every time I think about Michigan State, I think about toughness.
Sure.
And I think about, there's probably a faction that people that should be, or young men that should be lined up to see what that's like, because all that is just a preparation
for life.
In life.
Absolutely.
Whether you're an NBA guy, whether you're a Europe guy, whether you're an everyday Apple guy, it doesn't matter. It ain't all going to be a straight line to get where you're trying to go. That road is going to have all kinds of zigs and zags and all kinds of different things. And if you're not prepared for it, it could get ugly.
Absolutely.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, and you know, preparing guys for life. You know, you know, at Michigan State too, our graduation rate is really off the chart for a high level Division I program. We're at 87%.
Yeah.
And only reason we're really like that is we have a couple of guys that left early for the NBA,
Yep.
and they count that against you. And
Yeah,
guys,
which is wrong.
yeah,
Which
and
is
you know
wrong.
they count that against you, but it's still at 87%. But what we've always been most proud of is not our guys that go to the NBA and do this and do that, but our other guys, our guys that are working for Google, our guys that our guy Matt Ishbia, who made himself one of the richest men in the world.
Say that again. What did he do? What did he do, Coach? Made himself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
You know, we had a young man on our team. I don't know the year when we played in Detroit in the Final Four. We had a young man, Kobe Wallerman, who played for us, came in as a walk-on, earned a scholarship. He's a doctor. When he took the MCAT to get into medical school, he scored the highest score in the nation.
Wow.
But he was doing basketball. This kid was doing our practices. He was doing his studies, and he was doing community service work all at the same time. These are the types. This is what really sports is about. Yeah. This is what it was meant to be.
Right.
Not what we're seeing today. You know, the teaching and the growing of young men into adult men. It's just not. You know, nobody even respects that. Right. Almost. It's just a man. As you can see, it's frustrating to me because I'm old school. I'm 69 years old, and you know, I know what wins. I know what makes young men thrive.
Sure.
You can't tell me something crazy about, well, you know, it's a new day. You know, you like everybody likes to make that expression.
Right.
It's a new day. Well, you can't do that. What we did then, what you guys did, you can't do that today. Well, we kept doing it, and we keep winning.
Right.
So until we stop winning and we don't win for the next 23 years, then maybe you'll be right. But you're wrong.
No doubt. No doubt. No doubt.
Well, I'm gonna jump in. I mean, obviously, you already could tell. You know, Coach is still impacting me, so that gives you an idea. I mean, you know, so our history speaks for itself. But I want to kind of shift gears just for a second. I want to talk about the BCA, and I really want to bring that up because me and Coach actually, when we were out and about, we were talking about it, and it was important. He shared a little bit of history, but I really want you to kind of tell us, you know, your involvement, your role, how it all got started, and the conference that you know we were at the in Houston at the NCAA tournament. I really want to talk about that as well. So yeah.
You know, I'm really fortunate to be but I grew up under the old BCA.
Okay.
The John Thompson and the John Chaney and you know, so the old it's so interesting. I was having a conversation earlier just before you and I got on the phone, but there was an old faction of coaches that were African American and they did things that were unprecedented. They did things that were inclusive of sacrificing them and what they were doing for the greater good of the group.
Right.
And so the you know, I think as that thing grew, I believe, and I don't know, but I believe just there were too many spoons in the soup. And you know what happens when that, you know, somebody inevitably starts steering the wrong way or the opposite way of everybody, and things get all screwed up. And so what has happened is this new conglomerate of the BCA has come around, and a guy by the name of Pooh Jeter, who's from South Central LA, played at the University of Portland, put together a faction or put together a group of coaches, Travis DeCure, Jamal Adams, the high school coach, There's a couple of guys from the Bay Area. Their name, I can see their face with their name. So what they did out of COVID, they approached the old BCA, bought the name Black Coaches Association, and now under the umbrella of the BCA, they're trying to do some of the old things, but maybe do it differently or do it with a newer twist. And so I'm a part of that group. We meet, I would say, every month or every other month via Zoom, and we just have some conversation. And it's not just coaches. It's not just college coaches. It's high school coaches. It's junior high school coaches, AAU coaches. It's anyone that looks like us, that is willing to make a little bit of a sacrifice to do things, in my opinion, that are for the greater good of our group within the game, so to speak.
Wow.
Right.
And so I'm super excited about what they're doing. So right now, currently, what there's from what I know, there's two big pushes. One is a summer league that they're trying to reestablish here in Los Angeles for college players.
Okay.
And I think it gets off the ground maybe the 16th, 17th, and 18th are the first weekend of it. So a lot of resources and things are going into that, and kind of not taking away, but presenting a different perspective for college athletes that is inclusive of some of the things that they experience, the NIL and the educational piece, and giving coaches an opportunity and those things, as opposed to the Drew League, which is way more hyped because of the professional athletes and because of the guys that come here. The college athletes, they try to go and play in that, but they're just doing what you and I are doing. They sit down. They watch the game play. They don't get out there and get a chance to play. But this thing that the BCA and Pooh Jeter is doing is they're trying to present an opportunity for that. The other thing is they are really, from what I understand, they're just about us and they're for us in terms of creating opportunities at the next level from a college standpoint. College head coaches, particularly in basketball, trying to figure out and strategically put us coaches in leadership roles and leadership positions to be able to impact, again, the greater good of the group that we're all responsible for, in my opinion. I think what has happened is that we get into our own individual silos and make decisions based on us individually, which is not necessarily conducive to the greater good of the group, because what's good for me might not be as good for you two.
Right.
But what's good for all of us is going to be good for all of us. And it's going to get a level of buy-in from you guys. And it just snowballs in that capacity. And so being a part of that and being in the mix with those guys as much as I can has been a blessing in disguise, because, again, I've been able to see the old BCA and how they acted. And I mean, I vividly remember, just like I'm sure you guys would, John Chaney would, or John Thompson, take his team off the floor to prove his point.
That's right.
And so that's, in a nutshell, what the BCA has done. And there are other organizations. The ABIS is another organization that's ran by Gary Charles, and they are not as I don't want to say pigeonholed, because that's not the right word, but they're more inclusive to other sports, volleyball, football, baseball, as well as basketball. As you guys know, Gary Charles is a longtime AAU coach from New York, and he, out of COVID, has gone out of his. I mean, it is amazing what he started with versus what it is now. It's amazing in terms of the outreach and the arms and antennas that can go out from this organization, and it doesn't really matter whether it's rugby, whether it's lacrosse, whether it's track and field. They have antennas and arms that can provide us with some information and some opportunity within those sports, which is not customary.
Right. No, that's good.
Well, it's interesting you bring up about the BCA, and I go a long way back with that. First of all, I was asking Derek. He said, now, did you guys change the name of that from the Black Coaches Association to the Black Coaches Alliance?
I think they initially they bought the Black Coaches Association And I think they have since changed it over the year, maybe the year or so, changed it and turned it into the Black Coaches Alliance.
Yeah, because I was telling him, he was saying, well, that was the first conference. And I said, no, that wasn't the first conference that they ever held. I mean, those conferences would they were when, when John Thompson and John Chaney and Nolan Richardson and all those guys were the head of that. Sure. And they were also some of the top coaches in the country. That thing was so powerful. I shared this with Derek. That thing was so powerful, Dedrick, that the NABC was reaching out to the Black Coaches Association to help them to be able to push things that they couldn't push. That's how much power the association had. Yeah. And it's so unfortunate that, like you said, there was a lot of spoons in there and somebody got to sipping a little bit and it broke it broke it down, man. Yeah. It was a beautiful thing. And like I don't know how that convention was that you guys were at, but if you remember back in the day, them things would get so heated, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking about, I mean, guys were going there, man.
Yeah, it was intense at another level.
Remember Prop 48? And that's why John left the floor, And, the man has so much foresight. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And he said this. He said, I've shared this with the NABC guys, and I'm going to tell all of y'all right now. They want to test the kids now, but next it's going to be you. And then sure enough, before you can go on the road and all that, you got to take a test. And he just, those guys were so insightful in their, their experience and what they had gone through to reach where they were. It's unfounded in the information that they could, share with everybody else, man.
No doubt. And I think in a lot of ways, what Derek and I were at, which is now the Black Coaches Alliance, it was a form of that.
Okay.
The old BCA in terms of just, just the leadership and what we experienced. It too was beautiful. It too was a good thing because it was all Black men that were associated with basketball.
Right.
I do think unintentionally there are different agendas that we don't know how to maybe select one agenda that is all encompassing.
Exactly.
And I would say that's the difference. And I'm not saying that the BCA is bad or the BCA is bad. I'm not saying they should do this or they should do that. What I am saying is that I'm comparing the difference in terms of, we have access to so much more information now than they did then.
Right.
And with that information, I would love to see us kind of come up and create maybe a true North Star.
Right.
That we are all in line with.
Yep. Everybody on the same.
We are all in the line with. And I think that was the difference. It just wasn't so many.
Sure.
Back then that they could quickly come up with maybe a truer North Star that encompassed, all of the group's well-being. Whereas it's a little bit different this time. But I mean, you had all walks of every level of coach, from your high major, even your NBA coaches.
I like that.
Stephen Silas was there.
Yep.
Who coached at the time the Houston Rockets.
Yep.
All the way down to, I mean, hell, I was in the room. So that should tell you something, and everything in between. But I think the intent was there. I think what Pooh and his organization did and are doing, I think they're well intended for sure. I think it's incumbent upon us to get behind this organization and some of these organizations and really push some of the agendas that are out there, and I'm going to just share this particular agenda because I think it has a greater impact on all of us. And I'm going to steal an analogy that I heard from a guy during COVID, and he said, we control all of the oil. And when he said that, I did just what Coach did. Like, I love the analogy, but what does it mean?
Right, right.
And so he went on to say that we as Black, if you look at all of the rosters at Division One, let's just talk about Division One athletes,
Right.
basketball specifically. If you look at all of the rosters, I would say at least 80% of the rosters are composed of African American student athletes. And that's the oil that he was referencing.
Absolutely.
He was referencing the fact that we as Black people control where the oil goes.
That's powerful.
Does it go to the Blue Bloods, or does it go to Kansas, Coach
Right.
Tang at Kansas State, or Rodney Terry at Texas, or those guys at Central Florida? You know what I'm saying? We control all of that. And in order for us to have a real impact, we have to do a better job of controlling it so that it doesn't go to Kentucky, Kansas, Arkansas, if they don't have a Black or an African-American head coach.
Exactly.
Like, so for instance, let's bring it full. Like, the Pac-12 shouldn't get there should be no Black players in the Pac-12. None.
Because there's no Black
There's
head
no head coaches in the Pac-12. There's not one head coach that looks like us.
That's powerful.
But if you go and you look at their rosters,
down the line.
That was an analogy that he used.
So much power we have, in particularly in sports. Bear Bryant really realized it. Back in the day when he was, perennially the number one team in the nation in his football team, and it was all Lily White. And then here comes John McKay at USC. And he begged John McKay to bring his team to the University of Alabama and play a game. And, 90% of his starters on offense and defense were all African Americans at that time. And Sam the Bam Cunningham was actually an Alabama boy. That's why they call him the Bam. And he actually wanted them to get beat. But he also wanted it to happen where they really, really got beat. Because he was able to say at that time, well, there's a change. There's a change in this game. And I'm telling you guys, all you writers, all you fans out here, all you boosters, if you want to start seeing us get beat like this every game, don't allow some of them guys out of our state or any other state that look like those kids we played against today. Don't allow them here and see what happens. He said you'll see this every game. And of course, it changed the course of their recruiting and stuff like that. But where I'm going with this, though, Dedrick, is this. You're talking about the oil. We do have it. And what is so, disappointing in all that is that we won't use it. Not in the manner that it can be used. I tell Tom Izzo this. I don't know if Derek told you, we have a brother relationship. It's beyond our work. We've been together since we were 18 years old.
Yeah.
So I told him, I said, I'm gonna tell you something. All this stuff and all this craziness that Ron DeSantis is doing down in Florida and doing things that, basically hurt minorities and Black people. I said, let us as African-American people say, you know what? Sorry, Florida. There'll be no more African-American players playing down in Florida. And you know what? We're going to convince all our NFL guys and our NBA guys, you can draft them, but when their free agency come up, they're out. And that there's not going to be any more return in there. So you want to live that way? You want to be that way? Fine. We're not going to fight you on it. We just won't be a part of it. it would change tomorrow. Because all those money guys and all those people will be on his head.
No doubt.
But because we don't do it, that pressure, there's no pressure for him to make any changes.
And I think your point is it's twofold from the standpoint of you and I, us African Americans, we're the only race of people that don't operate and protect themselves that way.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
If you say one word about some of these other races, they will flat out break you.
Oh, yes. Yes.
They will flat out break you.
No question.
That's right.
No. And then the other thing is the second part of that is the saying that money is the root of all evil. I disagree with that. Money is the root of decision making. It gives you the opportunity to make decisions.
Right.
It just so happens that us don't make good decisions.
Right.
And the other races realize that if you ever want to get to the core and you ever want to divide and conquer African Americans, float some money.
Float money. You're no question.
Somebody, some way will grab it and they will tell who's behind them, hey man, they're giving out money over here.
Right. Absolutely.
They're giving out money over here. And a perfect example is it's an old Ice Cube song. And I think he said he moved to Nextel Pager and he left dadgummit. He moved to Nextel and he left Sky Pager. And the reason why? Nextel was giving out money to use their product. Sky Pager was they were charging you.
Right.
Nextel, I think it's Nextel.
Right.
Was
Nextel.
giving, you know what I'm saying? Like,
oh yeah.
Money, it's the way to divide and conquer because we don't know how to use it the right way.
No.
Case in point is just exactly what you said, Coach, in terms of Florida. Like, that's cool. We're not gonna fight you. We're not gonna.
Yeah.
You guys want to act like that? Cool. There's 49 other freaking states in the union that we can go to that don't deal with you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's big.
And you know what? The racists of the most racist, they don't want to lose.
Not at all.
In college sports, they may hate us when we ain't between them lines or on that floor or whatever we're doing. But when we get on that floor, they're our biggest fans because we make them look good. And now the state of Florida wins this, the state of Florida wins that. Well, shut that down. And I'm gonna go one more step with you. And this is from the past. We forget so soon, Dedrick.
Right.
Remember now, when Jackie Robinson played for the Brooklyn Dodgers, and he was brought to that team, the other owners, other than Ranch Ritchie, were saying that by playing at that time they called Negro player, people were going to stop coming to the game. It went reverse. More people started coming to the game. And when he started performing, because he was rookie of the year, his first year, it built the game. They're not going to stop coming to the game
at all.
They'll stop coming to the game if we ain't there.
No doubt.
That's what'll happen.
Man.
No doubt.
Man, well, you already could tell it. I love Coach because with Coach, once he shares his thoughts, I mean, it's important because he's not. I mean, there is no in between. He's going to share what needs to be shared.
Yeah.
So I want to shift gears just for a second because I really want to go back. Obviously, coaches went through some health challenges. That's why we started the podcast. I've been through some health challenges as well. But I want to try to flip it around because I really want you to talk a little bit about if you had something that you wanted to share with the audience, with the listeners, with the people who are going to tune into this show. I really want you to think about what you want to share with them because I want you to be very transparent and give them a takeaway, something that when we get off this show, what do you want the people who are listening to take away from you being a guest on our show?
Man, that's music to my ears, because I was about to ask you the same question in terms of the takeaway. What is the takeaway from this kinds of conversations? Because as Black people, we can talk.
Right.
We can sure enough talk.
Right.
And even as a race of people, and not a race of people, but human nature is to easily identify the problem.
Right.
But the issue becomes, what is the solution? What are you willing to do about that? What are you willing to sacrifice to provide a solution? And since you brought up health challenges, I will add mine as well. During COVID or previous to COVID, I started experiencing some headaches, and they started like in November. And I'll give you the short version of it, because I want to get back to the solution more than I am worried about the problem. And so I started experiencing these headaches in November. And so you progress, and they got worse, and blah, 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 blah. I don't want to bore you with the details of it, but fast forward, the season is canceled because of COVID.
Okay.
And a lot of people say that COVID changed their lives for the worse. There's a multitude of people's whose lives that we lost because of COVID.
Sure.
I stand maybe to share a little bit of a different perspective. Because of COVID, it saved my life. I am actually here today because of COVID. Because these headaches that I was experiencing in November, it was later discovered that I had a mass on the back of my brain. That only because of COVID, because we were shut down, because we couldn't do anything, I was like, man, I'm tired of these headaches. Let's see what this is about.
Right.
And so I began to investigate what they were about. And one doctor, he thought that it was stress related. And he sent me to a pain management doctor who said, hey, man, tell me your story again. So I started telling him. He said, hey, let's MRI it. Thankfully, he MRI'd it. He called me one Monday morning, and he said this. It was a Monday morning. I was just getting off the golf course. I shot an 86, which is I don't think I've ever broken an 86.
Right.
But I can count on one hand how many times it's actually happened.
Right.
You see all them hands?
Yeah.
Right. So it's so funny. I could hear him in one ear. So he's on the speakerphone, and I could hear him in my left ear saying, there's a mass on your brain. We're not sure if it's on the inside or on the outside. If it's on the inside, that's detrimental, and we have to go down this rabbit hole. If it's on the outside, it's not as serious, but it's still detrimental. We got to go down this rabbit hole. And I could hear him describing all of these details. And in this ear, I could hear God saying, relax.
Wow.
I got it.
Wow.
Don't you worry about it. Literally, I have 3 conversations going on at one time in this head. The doctor speaking in this ear, God is speaking in this ear, and it's all it's a conversation in this region that's talking about this back here. So that was on a Monday. I'm so calm, so cool. Like, I get off the phone with him. I go get a breakfast burrito and an iced tea, and I go home, and I'm like chilling. Little did I know the mass was a tumor on a nerve that controls my balance and my strength. So I get home, and about 12 o'clock, I start seeing the 714 number. I don't recognize it. I send it to voicemail, send it to voicemail, send it to voicemail, send it to voicemail. They keep calling. I'm like, yo, what's up? It's the hospital. Hey, how soon can you get to urgent care? I'm like, what? What do you mean? They're like, can you get to urgent care right now? Call us when you get there. Check yourself in. We'll come across the street. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I go there, blah, 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 blah. The doctor comes over. He shows me the tumor on the MRI, and he starts to tell me, hey, we're going to check you in to the hospital tonight. We're going to do all these series of tests and blah, 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 blah. So they checked me into the hospital on Monday. I'll tell you this really funny. I didn't want to check in the hospital that day because on Tuesday morning, I had a tea time at a course that I had never been. I'm arguing with the doctor like, yo, I will come back after, I'll stay right. I'll come back tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. He was like, no, we're not doing that. So I go in the hospital. I have an MRI again on Monday. On Tuesday, I have a procedure to find out if it's on the inside or the outside of my brain. On Wednesday, I have a procedure to have it clamped off. On Thursday, I have the operation to get it removed. So things are happening really, 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 really fast. And the doctor comes. He's coming on Thursday morning at 5:30 a.m. to come and get me to wheel me down to surgery. At 2:38, I remember it like it was yesterday. At 2:38, I'm laying in the bed on my back, looking at the sky, and I'm saying, okay, you got my attention. How would you have me to respond out of all of this? COVID. You got the racial injustice going on. You got all of these things going on. And now you've got me sitting in this hospital with a tumor on my brain that they're about to come wheel me down to take out, that I don't know that I'm going to make it. I don't know that I'm going to live past the surgery. So at 2:38, God responds back to me. It's a conversation. It's we can get into that, but that's a whole other thing. The conversation that we're having, like literally, I'm just like I'm talking to you, I'm talking to him.
Sure.
And he's saying to me, this is how I want you to respond. If it's not out of love and it's not out of productivity, I don't want you to even touch it. And so from that moment in time, when I heard those two words have been tattooed on my heart. From that moment in time, from 2020 up until today, those two words have been on my heart, on my mind, and they drive any and everything that I do, every decision that I make, every response that you hear. It's in some capacity driven by love for myself, love for my family, love for my community, love for God, obviously. But it's just mirrored, it's murked, it's saturated with love. And it's not love like, hey, I feel good about you. No, it's the different forms of love.
Yeah, sure.
It's the love that you and I all grew up on, where you get punched in the face by your father and you like, that ain't love. You just punched me and it hurt.
Yeah.
No, it's the love to where if your dad don't punch you, guess who's going to punch you?
That's
Police are going to punch you.
Right.
And that comes with a different connotation. And so understanding and living out the definition of what love truly means, because before this moment in time, Thursday morning at 2:38, I thought love was this euphoric state that only existed amongst couples.
Right.
There's a new definition
it shifted. It has shifted.
It like my perspective on love just totally changed. And then the second word, which is I think the most powerful to come second, was productivity. Do not enter any situations where you find yourself in peril, where you can't be productive, even if it's go by and provide some encouragement and some inspiration to somebody. Somehow, some way, you have to, in my opinion, the way that I think and my perspective, I am going to always leave every situation with the level of productivity. It might be somebody asked me another question. Okay, well, what does that mean? I want to explore that. That to me provides me with the level of productivity in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And so that is what I would like to share with the audience that's going to tune into this.
Wow.
Is that you have to act and present yourself with a posture of love.
Yeah.
Because if you give it out, guess what comes back? Love.
It's going to come back to you.
If you act from a productive space, it's going to come back and it's going to allow you to be productive in that space. And so again, that's a long-winded answer.
Man.
An illustration, hopefully, that most people can understand and appreciate. But there's a scar, and it probably goes, probably from right here all the way down the back of my neck. And before I had surgery, I wasn't bald-headed. I was only bald up here. They call it a stadium. I had a stadium. It was growing seat capacity daily. But I went bald, and it just changed my whole look and my appearance. I have a beard now. Again, it just changed my perspective on so many things, man. And so it's funny that you mentioned that, because just yesterday there's another sitting head coach who had a very similar situation, who heard about my situation and called me and just wanted to have a conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
He just wanted to, literally, it was so powerful hearing each other's voice that I was sitting in my car in front of my house and literally tears were coming down my face. because this dude just had surgery on May 15th. And at the time it was June 5th that we were having the conversation.
Right.
And there was no stuttering. I was like, huh? You did what?
Wow.
He had no issues.
Right.
And so again, to hear his voice, to hear what he's endured and what college athletics has put on him and his family, it just was astounding to me. And I say that to say that there are a multitude of people out there experiencing some types of issues that they may be ignoring.
Sure.
Get it checked out.
Absolutely.
Get it checked out. And so hopefully I know we're past an hour and I didn't go past our time together in terms of speaking, but you asked me a question that is near and dear to my heart. And it's one of the reasons I wasn't going to say this, but it's one of the reasons that I want to pursue my doctorate, because there's a level of validity behind just those two letters that would allow me to validate this part of the conversation with people that I don't even know, but they need to hear the message.
Absolutely.
There's a group of people that I recruit that look like me, but I need to show them that if you want a doctorate or you want something in life, if you work for it, you can probably get it.
Yes.
That's my 2 cents.
Man,
that's so powerful. It's been a powerful hour. It is,
to say the least.
The hour of power.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
Boy, to say the least.
It's, I'd just like to say thank you for taking the time out to be on our podcast, and it was a great opportunity to get to meet you, and I can foresee your career. You're going some places. I know the people there want to keep you forever, but you're going some places.
I appreciate it. This is an unbelievable opportunity, and it's to be in the presence of such history amongst yourselves, and having Derek, Coach Bowles, having played such an integral part of my career and delivering me where I'm at today. I don't take that lightly. And I'm super appreciative of him, and I'm super appreciative of you, Coach, allowing me to come on and share some thoughts and more importantly, listen to your perspective and what you've encountered over the course of 69 years. And no, you don't look like you are one day.
No, he doesn't. He 30. He doesn't.
One day over 30. You know what I'm saying? Like, just a whole different dynamic. But again, I appreciate you guys allowing me to share this space with you. And I look forward to doing it again.
All righty. Thank you very much. And have a good evening.
All right. We'll talk to you, man.
Okay. Take care. See you.
All right now.